So welcome everyone to Power Up Your Corporate Video Workflow. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Shauna Leonardi. I am the content manager here at EditShare. Let's get this slide going, and you can see my face there. And today I have recruited two brilliant members of our sales team to come talk to you about how EditShare can help you increase efficiencies in your corporate video workflow. So we have Sam Cook, who is Global Strategic Sales, and Pre-Sales Manager Bayan Shahindi.
Hi.
And then Sam, you want to go ahead and get us started?
For sure. I don't know if brilliance I've ever been described as brilliant, but thank you so
I
much.
have definitely
Very
100%.
glowing review. But thank you, Shauna, for that lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm Sam. It's great to meet you all. Some familiar faces, and if we haven't met, great to meet you. Look forward to an engaging conversation here. So, I think it's important to start at the 30,000-foot view, right? Is talk a little bit more about EditShare, who we are, what we do, how we can help, right? So our tagline is, we exist to simplify storytelling. What does that mean exactly? So our mission as a company and what we want to do for our customers is to simplify storytelling through the use of our Emmy Award-winning technology. So the EditShare technology stack's goal is to provide our customers the ability to access, organize, and share media both easily and securely worldwide. So if you haven't been keeping up on the trades, and if you have, great, or joined our last webinar, even more brownie points there. But quick update is that EditShare actually merged with Shift Media, another big player in this space, back in October. So the real reason for the merger is that both companies playing in a similar space had very similar ideologies and approach to workflow around creative storytelling and looking to simplify that. And we're not only hearing from our existing customer base, channel partners, ongoing prospects of the overall excitement about kind of where we're at currently, but also the future of what's to come for the new EditShare. So who are our customers, right? And where do we serve? Who do we serve? So this actually helps illustrate a few of the different verticals that we service. And within each line, there's a few customer examples in each vertical. So today's focus is primarily going to be corporate video and how we can help support that workflow within a corporate environment, which we've outlined here. But aside from that, really what this illustrates is whether you're a Fortune 500 corporation, a sports team, a house of worship, production company, post house, whatever it is, we can provide you the tool set to help achieve workflow success at the end of the day. So as we dive into the corporate use cases, I want to bring up some commonalities, right? So while there are many workflows our corporate clients use EditShare for, it seems like there's three main use cases that emerge from almost every corporate client that we work with. One being marketing, two being internal events, and three being training. So what do I mean by marketing, right? It's kind of a vague term, but within marketing, their goal is to help put together content to help sell and or market their brand better to eventually grow the company, right? And bring in more revenue and everyone's happy. But within marketing, what I mean by that is giving creatives the ability to have shared storage and media asset management workflows, allowing for global teams to be able to host and organize their corporate assets that are then pieced together to help tell that brand story. Internal events, so running a Zoom meeting for everyone globally, right? And maybe you're sharing some critical information that should not be leaked outside of the organization or corporation. So being able to share that critical information throughout the company securely, and then training. So being able to organize and present relevant onboarding material to new employees, right? So that's whether you're a creative or a non-creative. So having that scale there. So you'll notice that there's a collaboration piece under all three of these. And the reason for that is Within each use case, there really is a collaborative nature to each of them, right? Some more than others, but at the end of the day, our goal as the new EditShare with our new and improved product suite is we exist to help simplify the global collaboration in each of these use cases, being marketing, internal events, and training, which we're going to highlight moving forward. So to actually help tell that story, and as part of today's presentation, what we've done is we've come up with a fake reference customer, what we call Chef. And if you actually see a company named Chef, please let me know so we can send us like a cease and desist, because this is actually a real LLC here. But really, the reason why we're doing is to help speak to these use cases, but more so the global collaboration of a global media ecosystem and creative organization, right? So what we're going to do is highlight Chef's pain points before using EditShare and how EditShare has been a solution to our workflow problems. And just to speak to Chef and how big of this organization it is, we're the 5th largest food and beverage company in the world. We have 24 brands that we help support the creative storytelling and content output for. And we have 26 global locations. Now, for the introduction of the prettiest team this side of the Mississippi, wherever you're located, so my name's Sam Cook. I am a producer at Chef. So I oversee lots of creative operations, but the quarterback of making sure everyone has what they need to be able to succeed. Then I have Bayan Shahidi, who is our mastermind on the creative side, who is our post-production supervisor here at Chef.
Hey there.
Seeing a lot of that creative workflow and collaboration and approvals and delivery. And then we also have Shauna Lenardi, who is our, in this case, external client or external collaborator, which we'll get to in our workflow presentation. But she is the CMO of Good Nudes, which is actually one of the brands under the Chef parent company, but a Chef healthy noodle company. So pain point wise, so before we introduced EditShare, we had a bunch of different pain points, but we're going to highlight them here. The first being a poor remote editorial workflow. So I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, a pandemic happened, which was pretty brutal. And from a creative storytelling and being able to support the storytelling efforts globally, not having the right infrastructure to support creatives outside of the office was a massive, massive pain point. Reliance on underperforming consumer tools. So what I mean by that is Dropboxes, Google Drives, kind of generic cloud storage and file sharing tools. Is we were being asked to deliver content for 24 brands globally each week, each month, each year, and we were using Dropbox to be able to do that. And having that more table stakes functionality and running into performance issues and lack of feature and function, we were running into crashes, and really just that was adding time out of our day just to kind of go through approval rounds and slowing us down, which then really hurt our output. And in association with that, right, is disjointed collaboration workflows with external stakeholders, excuse me. So using multiple review tools, so whether it's emails, text, Slack, Microsoft Teams, really created friction in our workflow, being able to more cohesively work together. So it would take our review rounds much longer than they really needed to. And the fun one, insufficient security. So lack of user access levels and permissions associated with those users globally, whether you are an internal creative member or an external collaborator or stakeholder. Not having audit trail or user activity information available for IT or InfoSec or us as a creative team, and also running into shadow IT issues, which is never fun and always a no-no, where people were sneaking in products so it allowed them to do their job better on a day-to-day basis, which not good. Gotten lots of trouble dealing with that. And then all of that is to say is clunky turnaround, right? So when we're being asked to support 24 brands across 27 different offices globally, having a disjointed workflow, our output really, really suffered, right? So we weren't able to hit our deliverables on a week-to-week basis, which really just hurt our overall earnings and just morale of the creative team, which is never fun as the producer and overseeing, making sure we have everything we need to be successful.
Thanks for highlighting those, Sam.
Yeah.
Basically what you just listed was the bane of my existence for the last few years. We're being the post-production supervisor.
Exactly.
For Chef. I mean, what I'm hoping to
deep breath, Bayon.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it was a lot before EditShare came along. So I mean, I'm glad we're here today to tell everyone the solutions that EditShare provided us as an organization, and how they really looked at our needs holistically, my needs holistically as a post-production supervisor, to give me the tools to connect my users, my workflows, my locations from end to end. Right?
Exactly. Totally. And to speak to that, like, let's just jump into this end-to-end workflow that we've put in place and highlight each step of that remote editorial and external collaborator process.
No, appreciate it. Side note, did you get that approval clip that I sent you for the key?
I have not. I have not. So we're talking about all these now jointed workflows, but I didn't even get. That's on me. I'll check in the background.
Okay, please have a look. Check it.
Will do.
You should get an email from the system.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
So let me go ahead and share my screen with everyone. And we should all be seeing a Windows desktop. Is that what I'm thinking? Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Fantastic. Yeah. So I mean, look, we started off a long time ago as one of those organizations that had maybe, a couple users here and there, one office here or there, and a variety of cameras with some hard drives being plugged into different machines. Right.
You got to start somewhere.
We got to start somewhere, right? Since then, we've grown, as you saw, right, with the brands. What was it? 26 brands and
26. Yep. Or 24 brands, 26 global locations.
26 global locations. It's growing so fast I can't even keep up. Yeah. Now, one of the greatest things about EditShare was its ability to grow with us. So in terms of corporate growth, we started off with EditShare with one small system in one space, and we now have a giant global workflow in place for all of our offices. And I'm hoping to highlight a little bit of that for you today. I mean, the first thing was centralized storage locations. Those drives being plugged in, sitting on the shelves, growing into giant piles of disks that just sit there and decay. I needed to consolidate all those and make them accessible and available and archived and cataloged. EditShare gave me the ability to do that by providing centralized, or not only centralized storage at individual sites, but then shared silos of storage globally. Yeah.
Which by the way, shout out for you to do that, because lots of blood, sweat, and tears going into that project.
Oh man.
But doing that now sets us up for success later.
100%. 100%. Now you can see here as a user, when they sign into the client connection for EditShare, client tool for EditShare called EditShare Connect, it immediately logs in as you, right? And lists all of the different Chef media spaces that are required for me as a user. Now, these have all been given to me as permission for my user specifically. Now, let's not tell anyone that I'm also the admin, so I gave them all to myself. But for any of
We're being recorded. We're being recorded, man.
Oh,
come on.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways.
For any of my users out there, I can determine who gets what. And that's super useful across all of the brand names that our global organization employs. Yeah. Now, I put that away. I open up my File Explorer or Finder. So that's another point, by the way, is we are such a large organization with so many different devices out there: Windows, Mac OS, Linux, even mobile tools, Android phones, iPhones, etc. Right? All supported by the EditShare environment from end to end. Yeah. As long as you've got, a device, the EditShare ecosystem should work on it. Yeah. So that's been super helpful as well. So when I say open up File Explorer, a Mac can open up the same files in the same locations and look into, let's say, for example, the Good Nudes media space, which is Shana's team there, and see all of the content inside of it, right? And I can do that from any of my geolocations. Now, how did I create these locations? Well, we have a tool that EditShare provided called EFS Control, and it's part of the EditShare file system. Yeah, we have a big stack of steel in our rack, which provides extreme performance, extreme resiliency, extreme redundancy. I'll show you a little bit more of that later on after the live demonstration in terms of what the build is at each individual site and what our global image is, right? But right now I want you to understand, I can come in here and I can do very, very enterprise class features in a super simple interface. That's part of EditShare's creed. So in terms of security, user access, permissions, creating storage locations, all of that happens right here in EFS control. So I can create a new user and I can come in here and I can make one for you, Sam. Here you go. Congratulations, you're getting a user.
Yep. I've been waiting my entire life for this. Thank you so much.
Excuse me. It wants
Oh,
lowercase.
it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. You've got it now, lowercase. There we go. So if I come down here, you can see I've got a new user called Sam, right? Very easy, right? So once I create that user, right, I can now add you to any of my existing media spaces. And that's as simple as it needs to be to grant you access to see something on the workstation, just in the same way that I can through EditShare Connect, right? So if I come along and say, hey, Sam, I want to give you permission to see good news, nudes, the EditShare tool lets me open up my list of users attached to good news who have permission. And I can come in here and I go, hey, actually give Sam permission to see that location with additional read-only or read-write controls, even at that stage, right? So go ahead and hit add user, and now you've got Sam accessing the good news space. Now that applies across all of my organization, right? All the different sites, all the different users in play. I mean, enterprise style, I can actually do things like synchronize with an Active Directory environment, bring in the groups and the users from AD. I can do single sign-on to the workstation itself. So if I'm signed into Windows or into Mac OS, I can check the box in EditShare Connect or ignore the sign-in process altogether. That's the single sign-on. And in fact, as I understand it, moving through the workflow, when we get to MediaSilo, there's security advantages there as well, which are all super important to corporate environments, such as the SOC 2 compliance thing that you guys have, which is, as I understand it, something that many corporate organizations require these days, right?
Very much so. And just to hit on that, like having this flexibility of granular permissioning has been absolutely massive, not only for us as a creative team, but also for IT and InfoSec, where they can even manage their users and permissions if they want, right? So like I know David in IT gets really greedy with how he wants to actually set up users and give them permissions. They can totally do that, right?
Yeah.
So EditShare's flexibility for us has been a godsend.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I mean, one of the challenges we always face is every time we want to introduce something new or a new tool, we have to get permission from those guys, the IT guys, the InfoSec team.
Always fun.
It's a big lift every time. And what I found working with the EditShare organization is that was actually a breeze. They're not a stranger to InfoSec teams, to IT network security requirements. In fact, speaking of network requirements, EditShare actually runs on standard Ethernet technology. They're a regular NAS using regular networks. So our existing corporate network infrastructure was actually more than acceptable for the EditShare environment to join and just get involved, right? So we didn't have a massive lift of implementing a whole new infrastructure just to make some things work. Now, as we grew, then we started making more considerations of those kind of things.
Which is growing pains. And I know, if anything, from the evaluation standpoint, like I'm less of a subject matter expert from an IT InfoSec. I stood out of the way, and speaking of the collaborative nature, EditShare stepped right in, spoke directly to our IT and InfoSec team, and were able to answer all the questions, no problem.
Yeah.
So
that was definitely a huge boon for us in the corporate world. Yeah. Took a lot of the pain and pressure away of implementing into our environment. Now, other things that are super valuable in here, specifically for us in corporate worlds, I mean, there's a QoS feature here. That I mean, I didn't know what QoS meant when they first put it in front of me, but essentially, apparently, it means quality of service, which in layman's terms for a creative like me actually just means we can limit the amount of speed that somebody has access to, right? Which is super great, because I was having these issues once we started centralizing all of our content, where one guy would use all of the performance from my little local location and all the others would get suffocated or throttled, right?
Exactly. I mean, it just goes back to the second pain point, is underperforming consumer tools, right?
Exactly.
So being able to measure that has been absolutely huge.
Yeah. So I mean, I have the ability to limit the bandwidth to, let's say, 100 megabytes per second for a particular workstation, an entire group of networks or group of users or individual users. So actually, Sam, sorry, mate, you're being limited to 10
I knew
megabytes
this
per
was coming.
second right now. Yeah, there we go. We're going to save that change. And then from now on, you're the only person that is limited to that performance there. Yeah. Additionally, we have synchronization tools, which are super cool, especially when you consider the different sites globally that we have. For example, I'm sitting here in Los Angeles, and we have a sister, headquarters in London, for example. And at any point, I can actually synchronize over the internet any of our workspaces from LA to London. Yeah. And I can do that super simply from this interface here in LA just by adding what we call a Swift sync job. Now, I can select a source space. So let's say I want to synchronize Quinoa Crunch, right, over to the London location. And at the London location, you can see I'm already archiving or backing up Good Nudes and Pickles. But if I create a new space here, I can say, hey, actually, I want to create a Quinoa Crunch backup. Now, I'm just naming it backup, but that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be the workflow. You can have workflows where teams are sharing content, right? So, for example, if I had an active project that maybe you needed to provide to a subset team in the other site, we could actively continuously synchronize every day the content that's being generated one site to the other site, right? And that's all done using this tool right here. So Chef Quinoa Crunch Backup is going to create a new destination in London. Yeah. And then I'm going to say, actually, I want that new destination to be certain size. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And in doing so, that destination has now been created and is available for me to continue creating this synchronization job. If we come down here, you can see, again, we can limit the bandwidth. We can ignore or secure particular file types. We can restrict particular patterns. We can also add a schedule for regular syncing. So for example, I want this to happen every day, once per day at 3 a.m. on Pacific Standard Time, save and add. And now you can see I have a new synchronization job, Chef Quinoa Crunch from LA to Chef Quinoa Crunch backup in London that I can run right now, or I can wait for the schedule to kick in at 3 a.m. every day, right?
That has changed our entire workflow.
100%.
Right? Is taking the manual remembrance and task-oriented nature out of it and just letting technology automate and do the job for us, which is absolutely huge.
And one of the best things about this is that in the background, as I understand it, EditShare tells me that Swift Sync, the reason it's called Swift Sync is because that transfer is in fact Swift. There's some sort of acceleration technology built into it to make sure that files are moving across the internet at the maximum possible speed that they can. Yeah. And it's also secure and checked as it's doing so. So that gives me peace of mind and confidence that it's going to do it as fast as it possibly can and as safe as it possibly can. Yeah. So very happy about that. Similar vein, we've got a tool here called FlexSync, right? Which it's the same synchronization job, same configuration options, but the difference is I can select any of my source locations, my media spaces, for example, Good Nudes, and I can synchronize it to cloud locations like AWS S3 buckets. Yeah. And you can see it gives me the option to select my storage class of S3 standard, reduced redundancy, one zones, intelligent tiering, deep archive, instant retrieval, et cetera, and it's going to continuously take anything in Good Nudes and synchronize it on the schedule that I assign here up into that S3 bucket, right? And I mean, in terms of peace of mind, the continual understanding that anything that I sync or have available on the ground is backed up to the cloud without me ever having to think about it means that this whole building could burn down and I know I'll be okay. Yeah. So that's been extremely beneficial to us, right?
Super beneficial. Another thing too, Bayon, like when you introduce new tools, there's already existing tools, right? So whether it's on-prem hardware for storage or cloud-based storage, right? So we actually have an existing EDP, like enterprise discount plan with AWS, right?
Exactly.
So if I want to be able to utilize a bucket that I already have set up and plug it into EFS or just FlexSync, I should say.
100%. Yeah.
That is a massive win again.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
We're winning today. EditShare is just a win.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Sam. I mean, the concept of the bring your own cloud storage, right? I mean, that was such a huge win for us. And you can see this is a Chef AWS S3 bucket. And I can very easily add storage locations of that nature. And you can see here Glacier, S3, and then other third-party products as well. It doesn't have to be only cloud. I can actually add things like Backblaze, Cloudian Elements, SMB, Isilon, LumaForge competitor products are all available in
Yeah,
here.
right. So if I already have an Isilon storage,
Yeah.
I
Any
can
any standard NAS technology, like if you in a corporate environment, I'm sure that in fact our infosec guys, our IT teams had a ton of commodity class storage in there,
yeah,
huge amounts of
rotting
space.
away
Yeah,
or
but
collecting dust.
not high performant enough for our video workflows. But they
Right.
ask us to archive to those locations, and I can do that using these tools, right?
Yep.
So thanks for bringing that up, Sam. That's such a good point. If I come back to EFS control for a second, and we focus a little bit more on IT security infosec, in our configuration tab here, you can actually see we have the concept of analytics that we can collect, as well as what we call Guardian, which is our, again, this is security specific and conscious, the ability to look at security and information as a whole, right? Also proactively rather than retroactively. So this telemetry option, for example, sends test events, storage events, system health events, asset management events back to EditShare support, right? Meaning that they'll call me when something happens, and I don't have to proactively, continuously always be worried about checking the health reports, because it'll go to them and they'll contact me, right? Now, I would still check the health reports as someone monitoring a system. That's important, right? But even then, I also can be a little bit more relaxed about that, because we've got this custom endpoint option, which sends all of the same test events, storage events, system health events, flow events, audit, file auditing events out to my IT team and my infosecurity team in these protocols: Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kafka. These are standard protocols for those guys, things that I don't understand, but things that they're expecting, right? And they have tools that are expecting this information that they use to monitor our corporate environment as a whole. So they don't actually have to touch the EditShare systems, but they still have their tendrils in there, which they love. And that was another reason why the marriage between the EditShare products and our own IT environment was super easy, because they're given the information that they want, and we have the hooks that they need. Yeah.
Totally. And I just to even bring up an example is we were doing a spot for Sushi Snackers, one of our brands, for the Super Bowl, right? And we
Yeah.
had a specific timeline. And what happened is we actually had a technical issue on the EditShare side. And we were so busy kind of on shoot location and doing all this other stuff in parallel that they actually reached out directly, not only to the IT team, but also hearing from EditShare support to kind of give us an update of, we're actively looking into this. We'll make sure that we'll be back ready to go by tomorrow. And from there, not only being in the loop, but having the analytics and having everyone talk together was another huge success story. That, sometimes when you run into issues and you don't hear from either support teams or dedicated account management, you feel that helpless feeling. And when you have a delivery timeline, it can really hurt you.
Totally.
So that's huge.
So the last part of the Guardian tool, and I think I focus a lot on security because it's that important, right? Especially in corporate environments. But it is the rest of the Guardian feature, which is built off this Elastic and Kibana system, which is actually open source and allows your IT teams, your users, even someone like myself, to come in here and create my own dashboards that gives me info out of the EditShare environment. Info like, for example, this dashboard here is showing me how much storage I have left, how much storage is available in each of our individual media spaces for all the different chef brands, right? What's the performance happening in the cluster? Now, cluster is a term I learnt, but basically means the collection of all of the servers in the rack. These details are probably less important to me and more important to our IT teams, but it's available to our IT teams whenever they need it. The real killer thing about this, however, is this feature here called EFS audit events, right? EFS file auditing, which, if we talk about the 5 W's, right? File auditing will let me know who did what, when, and from where. The only thing we're missing is why, right? So if someone came along and deleted a file, this will tell me exactly who did that, what they did, delete, when they did it, and where they did that, for example. Super powerful when I need to know what's going on with the assets in my environment. So as an example, I can say, I want to know anything that Bayon has done in the last hour. And you can see in the last hour, I have at this timestamp on this IP address in this workspace mounted this location. Yeah, that's a very basic example. But why don't we drill down a little further and look at any time that I've deleted something in the last hour, right? Nothing. How about if we expand that time range out to, let's say, 30 days? Boom. On February 16th, 2024, I, on this IP in this media space, deleted this exact file. So this is how powerful this feature is. It really prevents us from losing content or not knowing what's going on, which used to be a big issue, especially when you have large global environments that are working collaboratively, right? So yeah, it's been a super useful feature for us. Yeah. In fact, I think I remember a case where it was just before deadline and we'd lost an asset, right? What was that
Yep.
you were talking about? I think you told me about that the other day, Sam, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Which happens all the time.
Mm.
It happens all the time. So just being able to go somewhere and have like an analytical dashboard to drill down,
Yeah.
has been just super helpful for me. And I'm not a technical person, remember. Like I'm more trying to drive that creative
Yeah.
operation
Mhm.
where this, and you know, I know that you dive into this here and there,
Mm.
but we can leverage maybe IT and InfoSec who has this up in Elastic to be able to let us know, like, hey, what is this user doing? What are they interacting with? Maybe where this file is, things like that.
Yeah, and remembering these are all web-based tools, and all of this information can be, again, output to the IT team and the InfoSec team, so that they can peruse this information themselves. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's very flexible and very capable. And it saves us in situations. In that use case I was mentioning a second ago, I think the end result was someone had slipped and dragged and dropped the file into a different
From
direction.
one folder to another or something.
One folder to another, and that's all it took for the
Which is
entire
classic.
organization to freak out, right?
Yep, exactly.
And we found it just by coming in here and going, "Where's that file?" And it told us exactly where it was. Yeah.
Yep.
So in terms of where files are, finding them, workflow collaboration, and the fact that we're a video, you know, I'm a post supervisor. We're making content for Chef and its subsidiaries, right? We needed asset management. I knew we needed that. Our teams never knew they needed that, and EditShare came along and said, "You guys absolutely need this." So that's where sort of the Flow suite of tools came into play. So if I show you Airflow, for example, right? It's a lightweight browser-based tool that lets us see all of our media spaces. And I'm signed in as myself. This is my own personal user. All users in the environment will get an account and can sign into Airflow. And I can give individual permissions to these locations to any users that I want. I mean, the level of granular control that I have is impressive. So if I come back into here and show you, this is my list of users, and for every individual user, I have the ability to turn off each and individual product and feature. I have the ability to turn off each and individual storage location, and I can, in fact, specify whether that storage location is available via just metadata information or file access as well. So I have that level of granular control that you need to be able to create a secure yet global collaborative team. Yeah. But coming back into Airflow, I browse to my, for example, let's look at Good Nudes, right? Shana, is this content familiar? I'm sure you've seen all of this before.
Yeah,
right?
she's sick of it.
Yeah, she's absolutely sick of it. So if we look at our guy here, you know, pulling out some noodles. In this case, I think that's more pasta than noodles, but hey, let's not judge, right? But I can preview this asset. Now, any asset that lands in here gets an automated proxy generated, and I can do things like I can create markers on this clip. I can create range markers on this clip. I can customize the metadata. For example, I can say, hey, this is a Fusion favorite that gets exported to Australia, and the product name is Good Nudes, right? So these are customizable metadata that we can create in a variety of different templates, yeah? All of this sort of comes together by creating a project. So when I create a new project up here in Airflow, so I can say Good Nudes promo, for example, I can add bins and I can create sequences, and then I can start collating clips together in those bins, all right, and into the sequence. So if I load the sequence, for example,
which while you're doing
Start
that, Ben,
putting cuts together. Yeah.
something I wanted to call out is having that metadata support and the searchability on top of that. That also has helped us in the past with if something was moved from one folder to another and I can't find it, like, what do I do? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being able to leverage search and just, if I have a project name, right, or just the file name or one of the brands, even if I just type in Good Nudes, it'll usually get me to where I need to go.
100%. Thank you for bringing that up, Sam. I did breeze over that a bit, but if I put a marker in here, for example, and I type, let's say, take out box, for example, right? Any metadata information placed into the system, or any metadata information that's embedded into the file, or any metadata information that comes from an external partner is searchable. And remember, we are a global organization, right? We have lots of different sites. We have lots of different media spaces from lots of different geolocations. Flow allows a centralized global view at all of them, meaning when I search for box up here, it's going to list any clip, any marker, any box that exists across all of the offices as a centralized location. Now, I don't necessarily have to provide that. I can filter that information out, or I can browse individual storage locations, but I know that if I'm looking for the takeout box, it could be in London, it could be in Tokyo, or it could be here in LA, and this tool will provide that for me. Yeah. So that's super powerful as well. And when, again, talking about corporate environments, that recall of content. Remember when when you're introducing the concept of we've got training, we've got marketing, we've got
reusable assets. That's another thing.
Assets,
repurpose
finding them and repurposing. Exactly. Yeah. So super important to be able to relocate those assets when you need to very quickly and very easily. And then how do I get them into use from my craft editor? That's the project that I was trying to show you, right?
Right.
So I collate them into bins. I build a sequence out of it, for example, right? And this sequence, this little project that I've created, can be imported using EditShare technology into Adobe Premiere, into DaVinci Resolve, or into Media Composer. So again, this comes back to EditShare wanting to be ruthlessly open and flexible and allow a variety of different workflows to happen in parallel off of one product. Yeah,
exactly.
This is a universal project. Yeah.
Right. We use them all. There's so many different editors and preferences.
Yeah. And that's inevitable. When you're talking about a global organization, there's always different stakeholders and minds in play.
I love Avid. I love Premiere.
Exactly. The guy in London, he refuses to use anything but Resolve. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I work with him in that way and gave him a tool that allows for that. Right.
Yep.
So you can see that the flexibility of our systems really comes into play when you're talking about a global geo in that way. So if I open up Premiere, you can actually see that there's an EditShare panel for Flow specifically built into the Premiere tool. Same thing for Resolve. And we've got a separate system for Media Composer, right? But if I sign in again as my own user, directly inside of the panel, you should see a similar experience to the one we were just looking at in Airflow. So you can see I've got all of my media spaces. Here's Nacho Nuggets. Here's Goulash Gushers. Here's Sushi Snackers, right? If I open up Good Nudes, here's all of the clips that are inside of the Good News storage location. And in fact, you can see there are flags on these that show some of them have been archived and some of them are online, for example, right? Actually, they're all online, if I'm being honest. Now I can preview any of these assets. I can put markers on those assets. I can view the customizable metadata attached to those assets, right? And I can also change the template associated with the panel at the moment. So for example, I'm going to change from one called AI Workflows to Chef. Yeah. So when I do that, it's going to give me a different set of customizable metadata. So you can actually switch between different metadata collections for different purposes. And that setting, by the way, goes across the entirety of the Flow feature tool set. Now, if I want to bring this asset in, it's as simple as hitting the import button. And it's going to tell me, do I have the high-res file available? And do I have the proxy file available? Now, in this case, I can say, actually, yeah, I want to import the high-res file because I know that I have that available. And I also want to import the proxy file. I go ahead and I hit import. It brings that asset in. It imports the markers for me. And you can actually see that if I look at the properties of that clip, I've linked both the original high-res file, which is a 3K asset, And if I scroll down a little, you can see it's also imported the proxy file, which is super important for me because that now enables my users to use the proxy toggle workflow that's
It's
native
huge,
out of Premiere.
huge.
Yeah.
The proxy
Mhm.
high res
Yeah.
switch is really helpful.
Now, remember that search that's available
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So if I search for
How,
box,
they call me Search Sam. Yeah, no. Yeah.
So if I search for box, boom, there's that takeout box, and I can import that into this project as well. You can see how quick and easy that is to be able to get those assets in the right place. But the extreme special sauce here is if I actually come back and go to projects, you can see that I can find the Good Nudes promo project that we just created, and I can load up the sequence that we've cut together, and I can import that entire sequence as a whole, right? So here's all my clips, here's all of my assets, and I'm going ahead and hit import. It's going to bring everything in together, and it's going to build the timeline for me inside of Premiere, right? So you can see how much this streamlines the editorial workflow, right? Now, I want you to imagine you, Sam, in fact, you don't need to imagine this, Sam. You've done this.
What do you mean? We do it on a day-to-day basis.
This is our day-to-day. You're in Flow here, creating these projects. You're these cut lists you're putting together. You're making the decisions of what clips you want involved in a particular project, right? And when that's done, it's as simple as our craft editors coming into Premiere and importing that cuts list that you provided for him and doing the actual craft edit. So
that handoff is huge.
It's that handoff between our different teams that makes everything so streamlined and so great. Yeah. Now, in terms of handoff, right? We actually have a few different tools in Flow that facilitate orchestration, automation, movement of assets, right? Actually, and that's something I haven't mentioned at all is I can actually, for example, browse an S3 bucket and see the content inside of it. Yeah. Now, how did that content get there? We've used Flex Sync, which I showed you earlier, that takes everything, or we can move stuff manually based on automated workflows that we can create in the Flow automation tool, which is this one here. So let me give you a quick preview of what Flow automation looks like, right? Because this has saved us from having to do repeat tasks over and over and over again. And it's also allowed us to integrate with products and build workflows, which is super, super valuable, right? So in this one particular case, you can see I've got one set up called Push to MediaSilo, right? So we're talking about review and approval workflows. We're talking about accessibility, right? MediaSilo has been so helpful to us because it's a simplified version of all of these tools that we're looking at today. So what we've seen so far is internal creative workflow, right? But if you're an external reviewer or producer, someone that's not a creative in the sense of hitting the buttons every day, but that needs to preview and simply hit yay or nay or offer comments, this more might be a little too much. And we want to simplify that down. Yeah. And the MediaSilo workflow as well, the MediaSilo product is external, it's public facing, it's secure, meaning that we can link out and we can deliver to people without ever having them have to join the Chef corporate network. That's not a requirement. Yeah. Now, if I'm previewing any of these clips, you can actually see down the bottom here. Let's, in fact, if we're talking about Good Nudes, let me pick a nice noodle video, right? There we go. Right. So I know that I want to send this out to MediaSilo for approval, right? For your use, Sam. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're expecting this, aren't you? Yeah.
Which by the way, we have a shoot that we need to get to, and I want to get this out to Shauna before we need to go to the shoot. So
right. So there's 2 levels of approval that needs to happen. Yeah. I mean, look, all I have to do to get that to you is tick this box. That's it. That's as simple as the workflow needs to be. That box is also available to me in Premiere, right? Or any of my creative tools. So if I go look at an asset, for example, let me come home and load Good Nudes, and we can look at that same asset, right? And when we look at the same metadata, push to MediaSilo, it's that same trigger, right? It's got that same information right here inside of Premiere, right? So we have the ability to tick this box. Now, what's happening right now is, boom, an automated process is kicking in. So you can see it saying processing, please wait. And wow, look at that. Almost instantaneously, we've received a MediaSilo ID, a MediaSilo link, and the MediaSilo project. So what we've done is we've pushed this asset out to the MediaSilo product, into a project called Good Nudes specifically, and we've received back this amount of detail. Now, the way that happened is flow automation. So we've triggered a box, we've updated metadata, we've integrated with the MediaSilo product, and we've updated more metadata. And that's the automated workflow that's happened based on this palette of nodes that allow us to build all sorts of automated workflows. Now, if I come back into Good Nudes here, excuse me, into Airflow here and click on that link, it's going to take me into MediaSilo, where that asset is. And at this point, Sam, I feel like you're probably better suited to
this is where this is the actual either internal handshake where I prep the asset to send to the client, which is Shauna, right? Who was the CMO at Good News. So, which, by the way, if you don't mind, let me drive.
Please.
I show that. All right. Well, thank you, Bayon, for sending me that asset or sequence from Flow into our MediaSilo instance, which MediaSilo is going to be that more handshake between our internal creative team and me as a producer, where I'm going to be able to share this link with Shauna, remember, who is the CMO at Good News, and she's going to be the handshake between internal and that external collaboration, right? And being able to communicate creatively through a review session. So as Bayon brought up, this is a Good News project, right? So you can see each individual block here represents the different brands that we create content for, right? So if I go into Good News here, you can see this pasta asset that he pushed from Flow that's now accessible in MediaSilo, right? So if I click in here, I can not only view this for my personal reasons, right, and scrub through, and there's a bunch of different player controls if I want to speed up or loop, auto advance, and play once, which for me is absolutely huge, just as like a creative to kind of slowly sift through this before I send it externally. But my goal right before we go to the shoot location is I want to get this asset, this V1, to Shauna to get her feedback, right? And to do that is I'm going to go into our review mode here, and review mode really is just the enhanced, more enterprise review and approval feature set, right? And the collaboration review session. So here I'm going to press play, and what I can do is I can make time-based comments. So I can call out, Shauna, what do you think of this theme? And I not only can make it a range-based comment, but I also can make it an annotation too and call out the actual Steam. So once I do that, you'll see that that comment registers not only the user that made the comment, but the time range that I'm specifically speaking to, and the comment shows up on the side, which really at this point is just an online text conversation, whether it's between Bayon, myself, and other team members, or Shauna, our external collaborator, or I guess we'll say client in this point. So I'm going to do one more as I'll go further into the video, and I'll say, what do you think of this plating? I think at that point, those are the only two things I want to call out is the steam and the plating. So from here, this is where I'm actually going to generate that external facing link, right? And if we're talking about IT and InfoSec security requirements, we have the ability to have a Guantanamo Bay super secure pre-release kind of settings and functionality from a review link, or you can just put an expiration date and or like password protected, depending on the type of content and corporation you are. It can vary, right, from previous jobs of mine to my current, right? They can be very different. But the way that I work with Shauna, right, is going to be able to send a link and make it usable for her. So whether she can watch on her phone, tablet, computer, whatever, all of it is agnostic. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to enable feedback. So she has the ability to comment, and then I can see that comment. But let's go into advanced settings here. I'm going to call out Good News Super Bowl V1 promo. And when I create this link, now I'm actually going to send it directly to Shauna and her email, which I have a distribution list set up So, which is super huge for us because we're dealing with different clients of 24 different brands, right? So whether I'm working with Good Nudes or Sushi Snackers, they're different recipients. So instead of having to remember like, oh shoot, what are the emails or who do I need to send to? I can automate that process by literally just clicking that. This shows up, I hit send link, and then she is sent that review link directly to her email. So now that I've sent that, there's a few other things that I wanted to highlight within MediaSilo that makes our lives like a hell of a lot easier and is a solution to the pain point. And one being is you can see each brand here, right, is represented in a different project. What we can do is we can set up different users with granular permissioning in each project if we want, right? So I can give Bayon full admin access so he can see everything and have full performance. Or if I'm working with a freelancer on Sushi Snackers, I can add that user by typing in their email here, give them a user role, and then either a predefined role, or you can even see we created a Good Nudes role, which if we go to the role editor here, these are all of the permissions in the system. So once again, checks the box of and adheres to the IT and InfoSec requirements for scale. So whether you are an internal creative team employee or an external freelancer or a client, all of that is supported. Additional security settings too, because security is always top of mind of pre-release content and dealing with this high security content is, if I'm in IT and InfoSec, there's a few buzzwords that come to mind, right? It's MFA, it's SSO, it's, watermarking, things like that. So all of that is covered. And when we were evaluating MediaSilo, or EditShare as a whole, I should say, from end-to-end product suites, they all followed that similar approach, right? I can enable MFA, right? Which will allow me to download a TOTP app like Google Authenticator. I snap the QR code and it gives me a six-digit code every time that I want to log in. Totally up to me, though, as the administrator. I don't need to set that, but can. And then from there is also talking about SSO, right? So if IT, which they do, have an Active Directory that they want to utilize and manage users themselves, they can totally do that. And if anything, I can hand that to them because we're already busy enough, Bayon, right? Like we got a million things going on. So if they want to manage those users themselves, feel free, Dave in IT. And then lastly is watermarking, right? So speaking to that, the visible and forensic watermarking ability, I can apply a visible watermark to all of my content. So if I'm sharing content outside of the organization, which a lot of IT and InfoSec people are worried about, like how are you going to protect it? What's like a visible deterrent? MediaSilo supports that, right? So for us, we don't use it all the time, but if we are working on like a Super Bowl asset that's pre-release, super huge for us. And then just a few other things that's been really helpful is like folder structures as well, right? So if I have a folder structure and I want to create a folder for each version, I can actually upload, this file to that and share this folder if I want in a review link. And then being able to track all of the links that I have sent. So you can see I've sent multiple links to Shauna, right? And we're collaborating on multiple different versions, right? So super insightful for me and really easy to not only access my existing review links, but update those review links. So if I want to add this, I can just drop that in and that will update the link, which another pain point is, hey, I can't access that link, or where is that link? Can you send me another one? No need. I can just copy this link and resend it. So there's no 3 different links in the stratosphere with redundant content. So I'm hoping that, great. Okay, we have to get to that shoot location. So which is huge. I can get notified instantaneously that Shauna commented, right? So great. Okay, so she made comments. I click the play button. That brings me directly back to this link. So I can now see that comment has made, or that, excuse me, Shauna has made these comments and spoke directly to my comments, right? Which is that actionable feedback. So love the Steam, more Steam. Amazing. Bayon, for us, that is absolutely huge. We're big Steam guys. Best shot. what do you think of this plating? Let's add some more color. Okay, so what we may need to do is go back for a V2 and just spicing up the color.
And if you click
but
on those moments, it actually moves in the timeline, right? To show
correct.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, correct.
fantastic.
Which for us is another huge thing. Instead of just having general comments, being able to easily go between them
Mm,
on browser, desktop app, tablet app, or mobile,
mm,
all the same. Because there's so many different people, so many different preferences on how you want to engage content,
mm.
um, and all of that alike.
I mean, I know that as chef, our teams have been utilizing MediaSilo for a while now, and one of the things that they've requested is this concept of like side-by-side editorial where you can compare two products together. Is that something that's going to be added to MediaSilo? Do you know?
That's a great question, Bayon. And I know this is a feature request that we've had for a very long time, because as editors, you want to be able to see multiple versions face to face or side by side to see what's changed within that, right?
Sorry, do you work for EditShare or something? Sorry.
No, I work for, no, what do you mean? I work for Chef, or Chef, excuse me.
Sorry, Chef.
But I put in the feature request. And
Uh-huh.
what's great is we actually heard that this side-by-side review and a better versioning tool to enhance that versioning aspect is coming really
Oh,
shortly.
fantastic.
I
That's
don't
great.
know. All software vendors they white lie a little bit, but we'll see. But I do trust the people at EditShare that what they say they actually do are accountable on. So,
Fantastic. Yeah.
well, and what I heard is part of that release as well, which is going to be huge for us, Bayon, and also for external clients and collaborators, I'll be able to actually tag Shauna. So instead of
Oh,
just
really?
Shauna, I can say at Shauna, and then she'll be
Oh,
able to
great.
get notified either through email or Teams or Slack, and just create that more cohesive review and approval function to then speed up those feedback rounds. And then kind of goes back to that solution to our pain point. It allows us to put more content out to more brands on a week-to-week, month-to-month, annual basis, which I know for us is super important in our goal.
The way that we set all this up obviously is built on these 4 product pillars that are part of the EditShare ecosystem, right? EFS, the EditShare file system, which is our, as it says here, scale out storage with high throughput, low latency, enterprise class features for security. It's NLE agnostic. It's tool agnostic in general. It's distributed. It's tiered. It's redundant. High levels of redundancy. Yeah. Flow is the asset management suite that allows the tools like Airflow, like the panels, to pull into creative NLEs, the automation engine, and has additional features like the integrated NDI SDI capture tool that we didn't even mention today. Yeah. Flex is a combination of the EFS storage and the Flow asset management system and elevated into the cloud. And the global centralized database that holds all of the information about all of the clips across our global teams, that's all hosted in Flex, which is how we achieve that global searchable database. And just for everyone's information today, everything that you saw in terms of the EditShare suite, the workstation, all of the tooling was all hosted in AWS in cloud. There wasn't any actual tin involved in today's demonstration. So that is an example of Flex as a product working, right? And then finally, we have MediaSilo. MediaSilo allows for secure file sharing, review and approval, presentation, analytics, the watermarking, as we were talking about, the customizable permissions, and all of the features that you need to be collaborative yet public and external, which really adds an end-to-end solution, right, for all of the internal creative work that we're doing and external partnerships. Yeah. This here is an example of one of the independent sites in our hypothetical company, right? The Los Angeles headquarters has EditShare file system components. It has Flow media asset management components, and it has a Flex component as well. The file system on the top left-hand side here, you can actually see we have failover redundant metadata controllers. In the event that something happens to one of them, it'll automatically fail over to the other one, maintaining your functionality, keeping your teams online with no disruption. Yeah. The high performance storage series here is a huge stack of spinning high performance media centric storage. It's balanced automatically. It's capable of expansion and contraction without needing to do much lifting. That's part of the idea of the file system, that it will automatically do these things for you. As you expand and grow, it will continue to increase your performance and your capacity and your resiliency. Each one of these independent nodes have RAID 6 protection internally, hardware RAID 6, meaning 2 disks can die of each one. And on top of that, you can lose an entire node of 16 drives and not even notice. You won't even drop a single frame of playback. And that's part of the dual level redundancy built into our storage platform. There's individual hardware RAID, and then there's file system redundancy, right? We have nearline storage, larger capacity, lower cost, lower performance. It allows us to retain continuity of workflows because you can move content or projects out of your online storage and to the parking storage, which keeps everything online and available to your editors without actually impacting their workflow, right? All of the media offline problems that happen when you archive off a project destination or move content out of its original location goes away, because the way the EditShare file system tiers projects between these storage locations retains the original path to file. It doesn't move. The projects will remain active. Your users won't know any difference except potentially a slight performance change. Yeah. So that's the advantage of the nearline parking storage that EditShare offers. It's cheaper and it's higher density for significantly larger amounts of capacity, maintaining continuity of workflow, right? We have the ultra high performance SSD storage class. This is perfect for VFX, for finishing, for 3D animation, for anything that requires super high IO, right? If you if you really need super high performance, even beyond our SSD tier, we actually have an NVMe class box that's coming out very soon. I've never seen the kind of performance that comes out of a physical box as this one can achieve. It's very impressive, and it has the same features and functionality and is applied to the same ecosystem with the rest of the EditShare file system. So please look out for that at NAB 2024. Yeah. The Flow Media Asset Management boxes in the corner here, these allow for local database management, proxy generation, transcoding services, ingest services. All of the asset management functionality that's required happens with these local machines or cloud machines, remembering that we are hybrid. We can do elements of these workflows either on the ground or in the cloud, or a combination of both. And then finally, down the bottom, we have the Flex Cloud Sync server. That server is responsible specifically for making sure that the Flex Sync feature that I showed you earlier is in play, the one that keeps all of our storage across all of these different classes of physical equipment synchronized into the cloud, into AWS or third-party S3 buckets of whatever object storage class you like. That's super important for peace of mind, because with that running, I definitely know that if this entire facility were to disappear for whatever reason, I still have an entirely archived copy or particular selective archived copy or backup copy of my content available in the cloud elsewhere. Yeah. On the right-hand side is a similar concept in terms of disaster recovery. This Los Angeles facility has a Nevada co-location made entirely of the 60NL parking storage units I was discussing before. And we have a link between the two sites, ensuring that all content from LA is continuously synchronized and backed up to Nevada. Obviously, that's, again, valuable in different circumstances for disaster recovery. If the Los Angeles facility were to be unavailable all of a sudden, the Nevada co-location would still be available. Yeah. So again, this is a pretty lofty example of an individual site. And the concept is that we can start from a single one of these chassis and grow to this scale. We can grow with any organization. We can start from wedding videographer that does a few jobs on the weekends, all the way up to giant global chef organization style class environments, right?
Which I think is really important.
100%.
Right? It's like people see this and they get they almost get turned off. Like, this is crazy amounts of money. It's going to take forever, whatever. We can start small and scale up, right?
Exactly.
Which I know is some of our best installs are that, right? Is you start small and you grow that way.
We get loyal customers because they see the value in our products, in our workflows, in our features, and we've started with them from their infancy and grown with them. So there's a relationship there that is strong. Now, if we zoom out and go to the next slide here, Shana, can you help? Thank you very much. This is now the global organization of Chef that we were just talking about. The Los Angeles site that you can see here, top left-hand side, is actually the previous slide that we were looking at, and we can have multiples of that location across the world, right? So in this example, I'm highlighting the Los Angeles office, the London office, the Tokyo office. In each one of those, we have the same examples of the physical steel boxes in the office, allowing for high performance, high redundancy workflows locally. In addition to that, your users don't have to be local. They are agnostic of location, and you can see that out here. The internal creative team is outside of the VPN, right? Or is accessing the VPN and connecting to either local workstations using remote workstation tools, connecting to cloud workstations, that's also possible, or utilizing their own local workstation where they pull content from the EditShare systems or pull services from the EditShare systems or the MediaSilo systems to themselves. All of these workflows are available for our internal creative team. When we have that discovery about your workflow, your needs, we will talk with you and design what we think is the best solution based on all of the options available to meet your workflow requirements, right? At this stage, one of our newest features, it's called Swift Link. We've had questions on that one. Swift Link would essentially take a media space, let's say that's available in Los Angeles, and allow you to mount it on your local workstation at home. This means that your available internet and line speed can be completely utilized, right? It can be flooded, and all of your available internet bandwidth, whatever you have at home, is the pipe at which you can do real-time editorial from your office, for example. Yeah. The reason that we've achieved this is because the EditShare native driver, the protocol that we use for Ethernet networks, that you will have installed and you will use to mount the media space at home, is now capable of understanding and optimizing for high latency connections such as the internet. Yeah. There's no caching or buffering involved. It's true real throughput. But allowing you to do that then replaces some of those more consumer style products that people use out there, like Dropbox, like Google Drive, etc., that while convenient in the sense of I can upload and download, are often slow, can be expensive, and don't offer the collaborative requirements for an organization like this. If you have a bunch of content in Google Drive or in Dropbox, you don't have the ability to control permissions, to control storage locations, to control directories, to catalog your content, to add metadata, to do marking. None of that comes along with your consumer tools, where here you're copying content in and out of your actual corporate storage location directly. Yeah. The smaller AWS window here, that's called Chef AWS, is the Flow centralized database. It's the centralized MAM and the archive location that takes care of looking at all of the different storage locations available to your ecosystem, like the on-premise storage in Los Angeles, the on-premise storage in Tokyo, the cloud storage in AWS S3, the cloud storage in a third-party non-AWS object storage company, the corporate commodity storage that's inside of the Los Angeles office already, right? Flow will catalog the contents of all of those and give you one single location to browse, search, and control all of that content and relocation between other places. Yeah. It really takes away that pain of I need to know what's there meaning I have to go there and ask the people there what they have there and have that be pushed to me, because I have the ability now to connect to one location and understand everything in all locations and decide what to do myself, right? All of that then connects to MediaSilo, which is your external, secure, remote collaboration tool that allows for the review and approval that we were just talking about with Shana and Sam, right? It also allows for hosting of assets outside of the corporate VPN, meaning that those become available with user controls and security, the required security requirements for download and for upload and for sharing and for public linking and for watermarking, right? All of that functionality comes from the MediaSilo product, which is also a cloud-hosted service, but it's a secure public cloud-hosted service that integrates with your internal secure corporate creative team. Yeah. When you allow your executive reviewers that are also geolocation agnostic to connect to MediaSilo, they have a limited subset of features that they can see, which simplifies their everyday functions. They don't get overwhelmed or confused by all of the additional tooling that the creative teams internally require. They just see an interface where they can hit play, add comments, and be happy with what they've done. Thanks, Shana. So the solutions that we've highlighted, everything is easy to use. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're simple. They're designed to be operated by creatives rather than IT. I think I've highlighted that a few times as we went along. It's a single solution from conception to delivery. So remember, this is a whole ecosystem under a single banner, right? EditShare provides all of this, right? Meaning that at any point, if there's any concern, at any point, if there's a link not being made, at any point, if you would like to speak to somebody, there's only ever the one people to contact, and that is the EditShare organization. So we'll always be here for you. You'll always have access to our support teams, and our sales representatives are always here for you as well. It's a centralized repository for all your media with access from all geos. Again, location is becoming less and less important. And Sam mentioned it before, we're post-COVID now. Honestly, most people haven't gone back to the office. I know a lot of people have, but I think the world has changed in mentality there. So now the need for systems like this that can allow the flexibility of your users being wherever, right, are more and more critical.
Totally. It's flexibility and security, right?
100%.
Is like balancing that and usability. So that's kind of like the triangle. And I know a few of our core values at EditShare that we share.
Exactly. And it's same to the point of location agnostics for your sites and your users. That's your internal creatives as well as your external executive reviewers. Doesn't matter where they are in the world. They can still access the same tools and they can still be part of your global defined workflows. Yeah.
Sure.
Again, Sam, you were just mentioning that comprehensive yet flexible security controls. We absolutely need, especially in corporate environments, to be able to say, this person can see that, this person can do that, this person can't see that, this person can't do that. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Yeah,
exactly. It's the flexibility of, if you want to batten down the hatches and make it ridiculously secure, you totally can do that.
Yeah.
But I also don't want that to scare people away that it's super hard to use. You have to go through multiple different steps to be able to just view something.
Yeah.
You have the technical flexibility to set up workflows how you want, which is a huge, huge value add.
So projects structured with powerful yet simple file permissions. Again, I mean, this is an advantage of the EditShare file system and its flexibility while still being simplified, right?
Yep.
Traditional file permissions controls, what are called access control lists, often some people will know what that is, allow super granular control of every individual folder or file per user, can have read, write, execute, list, delete permissions, and you can customize all of that. Doing that on an ongoing basis at a scale the size of an organization of Chef is so cumbersome and so painful that you'll never end up doing it, and all files end up remaining open because no one has the time. Yeah, that's the honest truth. Sometimes granular controls are so difficult to maintain that no one does it. Yeah. And you end up with the opposite effect. That's why EditShare made this the active choice to provide you some simplified presets of permissions that are ideal to particular workflows. That's where the unmanaged media space, the managed media space, the avid style space, that comes into play, right? We want to allow you to do these things like having a secure file location for your projects without having to actually have you sit down and do that grunt work every single time. It's too much and it's too complex. However, I'll make it clear. If you want, the ACL's option is still available in the EditShare platform. All of those enterprise functions that we're discussing are still available if you desire them. Yeah.
Yep.
Integration with corporate meeting tools. We did blow over that one a little bit, which is super important for corporate environments. Like our asset management system, Flow, and actually every element of the EditShare platform has full RESTful APIs available, public APIs available. We can pretty much integrate with any product out there that also has an API available, right? So there's no reason we can't. And our trusted network of partners, of channel partners, are very good at providing the expertise required to build those links. So if you ever wanted to work with a particular product that maybe we've never considered or something is unique or new to you, please let us know. We can make the right introductions to our channel partners and we can design a process to link those worlds together, meaning that you can integrate with whatever AI engine, whatever meeting tool.
Or even depending on a really good example is like going back to the common corporate use case of internal events, like maybe there's a global Zoom meeting where there's like critical information that's shared, either being able to have that directly integrated with SafeFlow and then pushing to MediaSilo.
Well, it's funny you should say that because that is one that we've actually built already. That is available for any customer that wants that. If you're having a Zoom meeting, the content of the Zoom recording can be directly imported to EditShare systems. The AI generated, scripts and information and metadata that comes out of Zoom can be imported and listed in Flow. All of that is available to you. That is an existing integration that we can bring into the corporate world, right?
Which is a good one to flag.
Yeah, definitely. Super valuable to a number of our corporate customers, that particular one. Yeah. Start small and scale indefinitely. Again, we highlighted that earlier in the diagram, but, we can go from, Joe video editor up to, Joe's giant organization, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And anywhere in between. And again, yeah, the security requirements and capabilities of corporate environments, of big players out there, the governance of AD integration, single sign-on,
SOC 2,
SOC 2 compliance, yeah,
all of
right?
that. Yep.
Multi-factor authentication, all of those things are in play. Yeah.
Which I believe Sean is going to allude to, like we have a site that you can go to learn more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
About.
Yeah, works over standard IT protocols. EditShare is traditionally Ethernet network based. It is NAS technology. There's no complex requirement for let's call it traditional SAN technology or custom switching or anything like that, especially in corporate environments. All corporate environments use standard Ethernet networks, essentially, meaning EditShare can plug right in and it doesn't take much of a lift to get started. Yeah. So thank you. Any questions?
Is everything that you guys showed here today available currently?
Everything that we've shown today is currently available. Let's remind everyone the relationship with the MediaSilo team is still relatively fresh, and with the ongoing development and integration work happening there. So as we progress together, more and more cool integration features are going to come along in that sense. The Swift link feature is probably the newest one in the set. That is available today in release. The global multi-site scenario for Flow is available today. There's definitely some planning involved in making that work. So if you have a project that requires something like that, we definitely need to speak about it as early as possible. Yeah. But
everything we showed is in production.
Correct. It's all live and happening right now. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was a lot of information to take in. If anyone has any additional questions or wants a personalized demo, please reach out to us, sales@editshare.com. If you want to learn more about our security, you can go to trust.editshare.com. And then, of course, you can follow us on social at editshare.com.
Mhm.
Thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate it. And everybody have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. We'll hopefully talk to you soon.